After a few weeks of clears, I finally got Hierarchy of Needs, the new exotic bow from Spire of the Watcher. So now I can talk about it. Okay, so, all right, here we go. Let's talk about how this thing works. You're gonna have a little meter off to the left side of your screen that fills up as you get kills or hit crits. Headshot kills will give you 2 stacks, 1 for each. When that meter is full, the next shot you hip fire and also fully draw will spawn a ring. Shooting arrows through this ring will cause 2 seeking missiles to spawn when the arrow is fired through it. The arrow that you fired is still an arrow, it doesn't turn into a missile as well, so you do actually need to aim that. The missiles also gain damage the farther you are from your target. It has a pretty lengthy draw time, but the catalyst reduces draw time when you fire through a ring. Prophetic Vector is the buff that gives you this benefit. I highly recommend doing a Master Spire to get the catalyst, as the bow is going to feel a lot better when you have it, to the point where I don't think I would be using this thing if it weren't for the catalyst. It is that much of a difference maker. Obviously, its main competition is going to be Ticuu's Divination, a very strong and popular bow option in all modes of play, but let's talk about this thing on its own first. Personally, I really enjoy this bow. I think the exotic effect is quite a fun novelty. It's fun navigating around the ring to kind of maximize your damage as much as possible, and the missiles are quite good. This footage right here, we're kind of popping off. You know, things are exploding, things are dying, we got Warmind Cells popping up, we'll talk about that later. Looks really good. Remember this clip whenever I start talking down on the bow, because no matter what I say, you can see what it's capable of. I think this is going to shine more in 3-player content versus 6-player. My catch crash experience was not nearly as good. There are more people fighting you for kills, and also each stage doesn't really last a super long time. It's pretty activity dependent. In this heavy ability meta we're currently in, and with how fast the game is currently moving, I don't know how much the average player is going to get out of this exotic without commanding control of the activity that they're in. Like, you need to be the lead. You need to be aggressive, because if you're not, everything is going to be dead before you get a chance to really do anything. This is a bow I would probably end up using more in endgame level content where things are harder to kill and where you're going to be a bit more stationary. It's very usable in activities that make you defend certain areas, defend the ghost, whatever you're doing, basically anywhere where you're not going to be moving for a little while, because the entire point of the bow is to hold down a position so that you can use the ring. It takes a little bit of game knowledge. You got to know the activities to know, okay, next section has a good ring spot for blah, 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 so let me hoof it over there and set up. The first ring takes a little while to charge, and when you can chain rings together, it's not so bad, but in the strike playlist, for example, or other low-tier content, you're pretty much going to be on the move non-stop. Teammates are going to be killing things really quickly with their ability spam or whatever else they got going on. By the time you prep a ring, you just need to save it for the next area you're going to, and even then, you probably have someone running like Trinity Ghoul and just wiping everything out anyway. This is also where Ticuu's gets an advantage, because with Ticuu's, the only setup is hip firing a shot to prime some targets, and then you just hit one of those targets and everything goes boom. You can prime multiple targets if you want, really chain things together pretty wildly, but you can do all of this on the move. There's no stand by this ring to do cool stuff requirement. It also gets a decent amount of single target damage thanks to its catalyst, but you do need to alternate between hip fire priming shots and then regular aim down sight shots to keep the bonus damage alive. However, a room like the final boss room in Heist Battlegrounds has the perfect kind of conditions for Hierarchy of Needs to just spam the hell out of some arrows. And if you're ever in that position or a similar position, then you're gonna have a really good time just spamming missiles everywhere. And this is where I would take Hierarchy over Ticuu's. Also, if you can hit your shots to the point where you have a ring available to you on command, that's when Hierarchy is really gonna shine. Speaking of single target damage, Hierarchy's bonus damage from being further away appears to be an all or nothing thing. The weapon says you get more damage the farther you are from a target, but in reality, this should say something along the lines of, if you are 40 meters or farther away from the target, you get bonus damage on your missiles. So if you're 30 meters out, you don't get a percentage of that bonus. You need to be 40 meters out to get it. and that's it. Which I would really like to see changed if possible. I would like to see a portion of that bonus damage if I'm a little far away, you know what I mean? For reference, 40 meters is about the distance between the edge of the Grasp of Avarice final boss platform and the boss when it's time to do damage. That's a pretty significant distance away. However, one benefit that Hierarchy has over Ticuu's is that outside of having to rack up hits for that first ring, the ring is self-sustainable as long as you're hitting crits, and the Catalyst really makes this thing fire quickly. I was hitting just under 25k per shot on Avarok here when firing through the ring with the bonus damage. But at full stacks of Ticuu's, I was also doing around that much damage per shot. In fact, I think it was just under 26,000 per shot. I did need to prime every single shot though, so while the damage numbers were close to the same, I still needed to hit that hipfire shot in between to keep the buff rolling. I think it's very unrealistic that you have another person on Ticuu's priming a target for you so that you can do maximum Ticuu's damage, so I'm not even going to discuss that. I don't mean to make it seem like Hierarchy is less DPS just because it deals less damage per shot than a maxed out Ticuu's, because that could not be farther from the truth. This thing fires really quickly when firing through a ring with the Catalyst, and it doesn't need to prime itself like Ticuu's does other than that initial ring. If you're getting the damage bonus from being 40 meters or farther away, this weapon is apparently the new highest DPS primary weapon in the game, or is at least one of the highest in the game with the Catalyst when using it at its maximum rate of fire through the rings. That's great and all, but as the game is right now, it's pretty rare that you are using a primary weapon for boss damage. Not only that, but it is also somewhat rare to be even shooting a boss at 40 meters or farther away in content that actually matters. It's rare to even be shooting anything from 40 meters away in general. Again, this image right here of me shooting Avarok is 37 meters away, and the bonus damage you get for 37 meters is 0. What bosses are you actually fighting at 40 meters out? Last Wish, basically none of them. Deepstone, none of them. Garden bosses, yeah, although the first boss is only there like half the time. Vault of Glass, no. Vow of the Disciple, no. Kingsfall is maybe War Priest, maybe Oryx. So there's only a small handful of bosses in raids, and we have the ammo to sustain ourselves in all of those fights anyway, using proper boss damage weapons. This might be some sort of a world's first raid backup weapon in case you run out of ammo. Maybe. Dungeon-wise, Shattered Throne, no. Pit of Heresy, no. Prophecy, maybe the final boss, but I think you'd be outside of the safe area for that boss. Grasp has Avarok, but you don't normally DPS that far away in the first place, so no. Duality, no. Spire of the Watcher, maybe, but also pretty much no. I'm not going to analyze every single Nightfall, but that is where I imagine you're going to be getting the most use out of this bonus in a way that it feels like it matters. Maybe you're not running a linear or a rocket, you're rocking a machine gun, and you actually want to contribute to boss damage. There you go. A neat little novelty with this bow is that it has some level of interaction with Warmind Cells. First of all, this thing can create Warmind Cells, which is great because historically, any weapon that could create a Warmind Cell hasn't really been that good. Wrath of Rasputin counts for this weapon. Solar splash damage kills have a chance of making a cell. Those missiles count as solar splash damage. Then, also, if you manage to shoot a Warmind Cell with the hipfire shot that makes your guidance ring is going to be massive. Does the massive ring help other than just being massive? No, it does not. Is it worth spending a bunch of time trying to make this effect happen? I don't think so, and that's because of consistency issues. Number one arrow is not enough to make a Warmind Cell explode. So what you'll often do is have 6 stacks ready to go. You'll hipfire a shot, but you won't kill the Warmind Cell because it's not enough damage. And then you'll have a small ring and an unexploded Warmind Cell, which then you will rage shoot to explode, even if there are no enemies near it. Number 2, you cannot get a big ring while shooting through another ring. If you have a ring active and you have 6 stacks and you shoot and explode a Warmind Cell, if you shot that arrow through an active ring, you will not get a big ring. The arrow that explodes the Warmind Cell cannot be shot through a ring, otherwise you'll just get a normal-sized ring instead of a big one. So, make it so arrows one-shot Warmind Cells, and make it so I can get a big ring while shooting through a normal ring. If that happens, we're chilling. Otherwise, this is not something I actively pursue in combat. If the stars align and I happen to get it, neat, but most of the time I'm going to be just fine without it. Would I be interested in actually running Warmind Cell mods now with this bow for a build? Absolutely. If it's going to be your main method of handling enemies, why not? Just throw on all the solar ones, go to town. Bit of extra bonus damage, explosions, maybe some healing if you want it too. Why not? You know? Why not? Treat yourself. I think that's pretty much all I have for Hierarchy of Needs. Definitely a strong exotic. You can make it work in regular content, seasonal content, and maybe if you have weaker teammates and you can kind of take the lead, then I think you're going to have a really good time. When it's popping off, it feels amazing. But you just need to be trying a bit more actively. If you're passive about combat, I don't think this bow is going to be for you. The game is so fast, it's so movement heavy, so ability based that I feel like you're just going to be playing catch up with your teammates a lot if you're passive. The ring demands that you stay around it, and if you plant it in a bad spot or there aren't any more enemies, then you got to start over, and that can be a little demoralizing, and it can be slow to get back depending on what you're doing. I think the Nightfall is where this bow is going to shine the most, as that's where things are a bit slower paced and you can make the ring work out a bit more for you. But I still think Ticuu's is probably going to be the pick for a lot of people. Priming targets for explosions is really fun, it's really satisfying, and it's quick to activate. It's not that Hierarchy isn't fun or satisfying, but it's just satisfying and fun in a different way. I don't want to make it seem like this is a bad weapon or anything, because in the right hands, it can be a monster of a weapon. You just need to be willing to play a bit more intensely and actively to make the most of it. Let me know how you're all feeling about this weapon. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.